I hold few regrets when it comes to not backing a project on Kickstarter, just because there's too many scams out there or unfulfilled promises. But two titles come to mind when it comes to Kickstarter that I regret not backing. The first one is Shovel Knight, and the second is Lisa, the Painful RPG. Austin Jorgensen, aka Dang-a-Ling, created a Kickstarter for Lisa with a modest goal of $7,000, which he ended up meeting his goal and doubling it. Some of the rewards for backing the game were becoming an NPC, a playable character, or even a boss in the game, thereby immortalizing yourself in a very unique RPG. Don't even get me started on how awesome the backer t-shirts look. Pink Brad is my favorite. God, I would even settle for the nipples shirt. Seriously, I'm reeling over missing out on this Kickstarter. Like its predecessor, this game was developed, written, designed, and scored by Ding-a-Ling, which after playing this game, I can imagine what an undertaking this project must have been. Jorgensen is nothing short of a renaissance man. Not only does he train in martial arts, drunken master fighting style apparently, but he's also an aspiring actor, a talented musician, and a game developer. Hey, even if RPGs aren't your thing, I'd still recommend buying the soundtrack to Lisa, as it has some killer tunes, and for only $8 you get like 30 or 40 tracks. I'll leave a link in the description below. Lisa, the Painful RPG, is a sequel in story alone, as the gameplay is vastly different from its predecessor, Lisa the First, but it still maintains the disturbing tones and themes of the previous installment. Released on Steam in late 2014, Lisa the Painful RPG was well received by a cult audience. From my understanding, it's a product of two extremes. People either love it and really love it, or people don't get it and they absolutely hate it, and that's understandable. Some of my most favorite games fall into either of those two camps. Regardless, it's a game that will stick with you long after you're finished with it. My initial impression of this game came from a trailer a friend had posted on Facebook. I know this is gonna sound elitist, but I rolled my eyes and thought, great, another quirky pixel art style indie game trying to capitalize on Earthbound. Sounds like fun. After some convincing from friends, I decided to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did, because Lisa grew to be one of my favorite games of all time. Lisa the Painful RPG is a side-scrolling, story-driven, turn-based survival pervert simulator. I don't know if I could categorize this game into a single genre, other than saying it's like Earthbound for adults, really disturbed adults. The root inspiration for the design of Lisa can be credited directly to Earthbound. No, really, Ding-a-Ling stated, Earthbound is my favorite game of all time. It's done so much for me. Is it obvious how much it inspired Lisa? I hope so. In the game, you play as Brad Armstrong, a kung fu master with a drug addiction and older brother of Lisa. Yes, that Lisa. Wait a second, whatever happened to Lisa? Oh. The game takes place in the city of Olathe after a post-apocalyptic situation known as the Flash. Little is known about the Flash, other than most of the vegetation was destroyed and all the women are gone. Well, almost gone. Cue the impetus for the journey. Brad stumbles upon a lone baby girl out in the wild. So naturally, Brad becomes the adoptive father of the baby, whom he names Buddy. Before I get into the intricacies of the gameplay, I just want to make mention that the storyline does follow the "I must protect my daughter" plotline closely, but there are enough deviations that make it its own.
I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of optional conversations like these in story-driven games of the near future, and I could not be happier about that. It's actually because of these contextual dialogues that The Last of Us was able to impact me again in a way that no other game or work of fiction has before. It took me some time to realize it, but playing The Last of Us actually made me want a daughter. And no matter how long you sit through this video listening to me praise graphics, gameplay, music, or whatever, at the end of the day, just know that that was the most powerful thing that I walked away from The Last of Us with.
Lock this motherfucker up. Put him behind bars before it's too late. Brad is aware of the glaring problem that Buddy poses. You see, Buddy will have to deal with being the last known girl in a male-dominated world. So Brad fills the overprotective father role and forces Buddy to wear a mask whenever they travel together. Like any good dynamic character, Brad has some inner demons that prevent him from being an ideal father. Brad is addicted to a substance known as joy, which is like meth, but with much worse side effects. You see, joy causes the user to seek out what gives them the most joy in their lives, which sounds nice, but it also causes the user to mutate. Brad's joy addiction plays an integral role in the gameplay, as you can choose to keep feeding him joy to keep him strong, or you can go cold turkey completely, which leads him to deal with withdrawal symptoms that lower all of his stats. In going cold turkey, you have a chance to unlock an additional ending. Brad sees Buddy as his second chance at making himself a better person after he ran away from home as a child, leaving his little sister Lisa with his abusive father Marty. In typical "my daughter" fashion, Lisa gets kidnapped and Brad sets off on his quest for redemption. Brad wants to protect Buddy's innocence, but others in the world see Buddy as mankind's last hope, yet there still exists an evil in the world that wants to take advantage of Buddy no matter the cost. It's a disturbing tale that gets even more messed up as the story progresses. The citizens of Olathe are all sex-starved men that are out on the hunt for Buddy, or they have resigned themselves to that sweet, sweet boy pussy. Sex is at the centerfold of the story, pun intended, motherfucker. So much so that the currency in the game are porno mags. Each interaction with an NPC is delightfully strange. Most of the NPCs do nothing to further the plot and are entirely optional. They only exist to add to the bizarre nature of the world. There are several villages to travel to in Olathe, many of which can be destroyed by raiders if you make certain wrong decisions. My favorite is the hidden village of fish people, which I missed during my first playthrough. Vomit Town from the first game appears as a stretch goal area known as the Island Resort. It's just as disturbing. The Marty spiders also make a return, unfortunately, but at least you can beat the crap out of them this time. There are a lot of hard choices Brad will have to make in his journey. Without getting into spoiler territory, there is an instance where you can choose to forfeit all of your items and porno mags, or sacrifice one of your partners. It's entirely up to you to decide which is more valuable to you at the time. This is a game about survival, but usually either choice will be painful. Speaking of shitty puns, at the start of the game, you can choose between painful mode or regular mode. I'd personally recommend regular mode for your first playthrough, as it allows you to save unlimited times, whereas painful mode destroys the save point after you've used it, which seems bad, but there are around 35 save points in the game, which is more than enough in my opinion. The battle system is modeled after Earthbound in the sense that you encounter an enemy, your party pummels them until they disappear. The only things missing are the trippy animated backgrounds and the slot reel HPMP screens. Otherwise, it faithfully captures the simple mechanics of its muse. Keep in mind, Brad is a karate master, so he combos punches, kicks, and headbutts in an active fighting mode that reminds me of Legend of Legaia. He can also learn magic attacks as he levels up, which are extremely useful if you decide to go on a joyless run. What sets this apart from Earthbound is that you get to see your characters animate to fight the enemies, most of which are just ridiculous. You can also skip the battle animations if you want to speed up the battles. It's up to you. Brad isn't alone on his quest, as he will acquire many party members along the way. There are partners that Brad can recruit, ranging from a drag queen named Roger To a defense attorney fishman. Like Chrono Cross, the cast of partners aren't really that important to the story, as some have few to no lines of dialogue, or don't care enough about Brad because they're dealing with their own shit. Seeking out your partners and experimenting with different sets of party members is really fun. It's one of the main draws of the game. Do I go with a heavy hitter that has a joy addiction, or do I take along a man dressed like a fly that vomits status effects on the enemy? There are some really broken team combinations that can make Lisa a cakewalk, even on painful mode, but I'll leave it up to you to play the game how you want. Playable characters are so plentiful in this world for a reason. It's because of the survival elements built into the game. Take, for instance, the idea of inns. Usually in RPGs, the inns are safe havens where your party can rest up and save your game. Well, there are two types of inns present in Lisa: tents and campfires. Tents are a safe bet because you pay in exchange for protection while you sleep. Campfires, on the other hand, come with all sorts of risks. For instance, you fall asleep and you wake up and find out that you've been robbed of all your items in the middle of the night, or one of your party members could be held ransom by a gang. I find it best to avoid campfires altogether, but I'd recommend trying them out for fun. It's really difficult for me not to spoil some of the great moments found in this game. Let's just say that there are other events within Lisa that can cause your party members permadeath, depending on your decisions or pure RNG. Just don't get too attached to anyone and save scum if you need to. There are a couple of points of no return in the game where you might miss items, partners, or you can't return to a place anymore. You should make sure you're keeping multiple save files. Lisa has an extensive base of loyal fans that have produced some gorgeous fan art for the series. This game is comprised of a ton of little great moments that will leave you in tears from laughter or utter despair. Multiple times throughout, I asked myself, did I do the right thing? The game only sits around 12 hours per playthrough, but for $9.99, it's an absolute bargain, and it's come up on sale a couple of times. The cryptic nature about some of the events in the story have inspired fan theories and speculation about what might happen in the upcoming sequel, Lisa the Joyful, which is set to release in late August of 2015.